Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another car video. The myth of single mothers raising their boys alone. And yeah, it's a myth, and yeah, I know there's some exceptions, but the exceptions kind of prove the rule, right? I'm going to tell you a story. I remember one of the last times I was on a relationship panel, right? And that relationship panels thing, that's something I'm actually going to get into in my next video. Why I don't mess with them anymore. But I was on this panel. I was on there with some PhDs, some psychologists, some doctors. Yeah, because Rom, don't let this Uncle Rom persona fool you. I can go deep. But I remember during this forum, they had a young man who stood up and said, you know, he thought, yeah, women could raise their boys by themselves. He was a product of a single mother household, single parent household, right? Which I was like, and me and this PhD looked at each other. Yeah. Oh yeah, I had to. No. Anyway, right? Me and this PhD looked at each other, right? We looked at it, it's like, what? And we really didn't feel like just jumping into the young man, right? Well, we did, but we kind of did it in a nice way. And, when we both talked about our experiences and stuff. Look, one of the biggest problems out there is you have many women feeling like they can be the mother and the father. And, we see this play out all the time. Now I understand if for whatever reason they can't marry, they don't marry the baby's, father. There's a bunch of stuff. He could be trifling, whatever. But it's a dangerous idea to think that a woman could raise the child by themselves. Now I did a video on the effect of fatherlessness, and I want to go further into that. Now understand something. When I say the things I say and why there's an issue, why I say there's an issue with single mothers raising boys by themselves, I don't say it from just Rom's opinion, right? Not opinion. Remember, and I've said this a few times, I've worked in the criminal justice system. I used to go down to prisons. In fact, I had a coaching client the other day who had a parent who worked at the Lorton prison in Northern Virginia, and that used to be where DC sent all their prisoners and everything, right? The inmates, right? And when the times I went down there, and I went down there in several capacities, either working for an attorney, or even before that, when I first started going, I was an intern in a diagnostic probation office. And diagnostic probation, for those who don't know, they're the ones who talk when someone is convicted of a crime, and before they go into, before they're sentenced, they actually go before a diagnostic probation officer. And the diagnostic probation officer gets the information from them, find out what ties they have to the community, do they have a job, and at least back then would recommend sentencing to a judge. Now, this is kind of before mandatory minimums kicked in, where, you didn't have a lot of leeway. But back then we could recommend it, or just off my recommendation. There's some people who spent some extra time in jail based just off my recommendation. There's some people who might have gotten out, might have gotten probation, something like that, right? Oh, we got some stories about that, but they're kind of confidential. But the thing I found, a lot of times these guys in the criminal justice system didn't have a father in their lives, and they had those type of mothers who thought they could be mommy and daddy. Now that was when I first started seeing it with the diagnostic probation, and then saw it again when I worked in other capacities in the criminal justice system and just got to see it straight up. I mean, most of them, you sit in court and the fathers weren't there, and then you dealing with an arrogant mother who thought, oh yeah, I could do anything, and then, she don't take responsibility that maybe she couldn't. And no, it's a big problem. And I had a conversation with that psychologist afterwards, and shit, he had worse story. He see it from another thing. I mean, you got social workers could probably tell you some stuff. I had a conversation the other day with a very beautiful teacher. She saw the problem. She said she could tell the difference between the boys, or even the children, not just the boys, but the children whose fathers were in their lives and the ones they want. Look, one of the things to realize, both parents need to be there. I mean, that shouldn't be emphasized enough. And like I said, this ain't just Rom's opinion. I mean, we can go pro on this. We can bring some psychologists in on this. We can bring people who work in the criminal justice system, because that's where you see it the most. It's kind of messed up if you could say like 85% of young men, and let's be real, young black men in the criminal justice system didn't have the fathers in the home. Now, it's easy to blame just the fathers. And just on a personal basis, my personal belief is a father got to make a way no matter what. No matter what, how ruthless he got to be to see his kids. That's me. But at the same time, you have mothers who purposely think they can do all right by themselves and keep the parents out. And this ain't just ratchet mothers. I know some professional women who because they wanted a child, we have a child with some dude, usually some dude they thought, was pretty or something like that, or, attractive, so they could have pretty babies. And then the father, they don't have any intention of marrying the father. They ain't go into it. He's basically just a warm sperm donor. It's just a preference to, going to some Target and getting some white man sperm, or, going to a sperm clinic or something. They get a live dude. May be pleasurable to them on that, but they never had any intention, because they feel like, well, I can raise this child by myself. And like I said, they ain't just the ratchets. Let's just be clear on that. Let's just be clear. But it's a dangerous thing, because just on a psychological thing, the fathers are needed. The fathers are needed. And, I can talk trash about the fathers and say what they need to do. Y'all know my position on it, be ruthless about being in a child's life. But those fathers shouldn't, if you have a mentality like I can be, like a woman saying to herself she can be mother and father, that's dangerous, because she can't. It's not even anecdotal evidence. It's like, go sit in go to any court, family court, no, not even family court, go to any criminal court, just sit there, just take a day off, plan to get some lunch somewhere, and go just sit there. Go just sit there and look who's sitting there with the young men. It's rare that you're going to see some fathers there. And it's like I said, it's so easy to blame the fathers, but at the same time, you got memes and you got women bragging about I'm mother and father. Some of them go into it, all because they don't they dislike the father, or they just they had the plan from the get-go to do both, because they got trouble getting along with a man, but they want to deal, they still want a child. But see, they don't think about how that messed them up. They think, okay, I got some money and all of that, but the fact of the matter is, the family really is a technology for raising a child, and just on some deeper levels, like some I don't get into publicly, but just how brain development and everything. There needs to be that mother energy, which is kind of nurturing, but also that father thing, which instills order. When you look at and I've said this before, if you were to cut open a large fibroid tumor, it would have all the parts of a baby, including teeth. That's because it wasn't fertilized by a sperm, and that sperm is there to bring order, and that's how it is. So women thinking they can actually like do both, they hurting the child. They hurting the child, and like I said, my experience, the way I looked at it, and where I found out was through the criminal justice system. That's the last place I should have found out. But I've talked with social workers, I've talked with teachers. They can see it. So that's one thing that has to go. I mean, yeah, I understand. Sometimes people don't go along, but then people got to think at that point, once the baby comes, it ain't about them and their personal issues. It's not about them. Any women who thinking that they really gonna have some trouble, or you know what, get that extra job because you might be putting a lot of stuff on your son's commissary. Real talk. Real talk. And like I said, this ain't just something I said. I've worked in the criminal justice system. And I challenge anybody who's worked in that system to tell me I'm wrong. So, we got to get rid of that myth. Got to get rid of the myth. Now, I ain't going to say, like I said, couples need to get married. Sometimes that's a bad thing. But they need to come to some understanding about that child. They need to have that father. If the father isn't available, well, they need to find some male figures. Because even now, some of the dudes I'm coaching, a lot of them don't have that father figure or something like that. They didn't have that. So that's important. And yeah, we can talk about the deadbeat dads, but we got to talk about that whole myth of women thinking they can do it by themselves. And we got to point the finger at everybody on that one. All right, so that's both sides. So, I'm glad. Shout out to Delano Green for suggesting the topic, because it's a very important topic. And, on some real talk, man, I know we get on here and we talk about game and what we can do to get that woman and dating and all that shit. But for real, I can go way deeper than all of that, because it's bigger implications. Because you could be dating somebody and you thinking, you dicking her down or something, but shoot, that condom tear, or you get silly, or she's like, hey, take off the condom or something, or you try some rhythm method and your pull-out game is weak. Shoot, all of a sudden you get a whole other set of issues you need to deal with. And that's part of the game too, really. That's part of the game. Every single time a man has sex with a woman, he needs to be thinking she could possibly get pregnant. Because I'm going to tell you the truth, from a personal thing, I've had a lot of condoms tear on me in life. Seriously. I've had a lot of condoms tear on me. I had a lot, to the point, that's actually what started me like really being picky about women, because I said, shit, I can't, because I wasn't the type. I don't believe in abortion. I'm pro-life. So I've actually told some women if they got pregnant, look, if you don't want the child, I'll take the child. So, but at that time, at the same time, for me to tell a woman that, I got to know her character and everything. And that's part of the game. That's why I tell some guys, you got to be picky out here, man. Sometimes you can't be thinking, oh yeah, I'm just going to hit this shit. Nah. You just take that one little tiny microscopic thing and shit, your life has changed. So anyway, right, that's it for today. I'm going to go in here and work out and stuff and do my thing. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace and blessings.